start it up here. Let's go ahead and play it.
Put me in cold. I'm ready to play this game.
There you go. Baseball Summer Series 2024. This week is a big week for the MLB. We're going to have an all-star game here on Tuesday. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. The podcast next week after we have the game. We're going to have the draft here. So we're going to have, again, draft stream here on Sunday, 7 o'clock. We're going to be here live streaming. So we usually record these, but definitely we're going to be live Sunday. Be talking about the Orioles in the MLB draft and talking about the Yankees in Orioles game that earlier that day, very early, 11:30 on Roku. All right. Shameless plug there, obviously. So now we're going to talk about baseball summer and the MLB draft. So the draft is this week. So last week we talked about players, College World Series, college players overall. So now, who is in the draft now as far as high school players? High school players play a big role in who goes into the minors. So what you see is a lot of players, a lot of major league teams. It depends on the team. Certain teams do like high school players because then you can develop them over time, right? So you can develop high school players over time, and then they play in the minors 3-4 years. There are certain organizations like players that long. So that's the appeal of high school players. There's definitely, to me, more risk with high school players because the injuries. Can they play a whole season, playing fewer games, small sample size, whatever? When I'm looking at high school players, who's blowing me away, right? When I look at it, who's blowing me away? Who's like, whoa? If you're playing against high school players, and it's different than when you're playing in college, where especially like even in college. In college, when you have the College World Series, you're playing against other really good players. A lot of the time, you're playing against other really good players. Not so much like during regular season. There's like even at the high. There's a lot of bad high school college baseball teams. But once you get to the College World Series, you're playing with contemporaries, right? You're playing with really good players that are going to go to the next level, players that are really good, etc. You're going to have that. So in high school, that's not really the case unless you're in these big prospect games, etc. Then you kind of are. But I need to see dominance. Right? So with the high school players that are in there. So who is dominant as far as the best high school players in the draft? So I came up with a list. Some people might disagree, but looking at it over and over, looking at the videos of these guys, who are the best high school players in the draft? Okay. I think people are going to disagree with this one right off the bat. And also, too, one thing, before I go to the prospects, especially pitching inventory. Here it is. So you're seeing it in the draft. A lot of the first round, if you're going to watch the first round, you're going to see a lot of hitting. That's what you see in college. That's what you see a lot of those guys first round, or you see a lot of hitters. The pitching inventory is here. So a lot of these guys are going to go here. This is not all pitchers, obviously, but if you're looking for the pitching inventory, the high school prospects. So that's what you're looking at. Cam Caminiti. So he is actually in the Caminiti family. His Ken Caminiti, so many years for the Houston Astros as well. He definitely has an offensive. I think some team might use him as an offensive player. Definitely, I see him a little bit. I've seen outfielder. I think he's the best player in the draft. I think he's certainly the best pitcher. I see a little Chris Sale in him as well. Really, when somebody has this height, over 6 feet tall, really can throw this hard from the left side, he's going to get taken very early. So I think definitely he's a guy with needs to work on his control a little bit, but definitely a guy I think can go pretty early in the draft I wouldn't say top 10, but definitely he's a guy I really like. I think he's the best high school prospect in the draft. Connor Griffin, shortstop outfielder for Jackson Prep High School. I think his arm is terrific. That's the really thing I like about him. He's definitely a hitter as well. He's going to be a solid hitter, a tall frame, but they're going to play him at shortstop. I think he'd be to use him in right field would be that'd be a very good weapon. I love to see him out in right field with his great throwing arm that he have. Ronald Acuna is the guy. I think I kind of had him comped as well. Great speed as well. I can see he runs the base as well. So I think definitely he's a guy. I think like the more group think is that this is the best high school player. I have him behind Cam Nitty, but I like him. Connor Griffin at number 2. Number 3, Brent Rayner from Harvard Westlake High School. I think this is more just a solid all around player. Hits the ball well. I think he's a very kind of like Griffin in a sense, a big middle infielder. I think I think I'd see him move him off of the shortstop. I think he is a good shortstop though, but I think somebody with his great size, I think somebody more likely to move him. But I could definitely see it with him defensively. Marcus Simeon, not tremendous defensively as well, but good enough. I think his hitting is great. The power stroke, I like him a lot. He's going to hit a lot of home runs, I think, eventually. That's why I don't think maybe he doesn't stay at shortstop. Could move him away. I don't think he's not as good defensively as Griffin is with the throwing arm. Marcus Smith, I think he's going to be the highest right-handed pitcher in the draft. I think the Orioles might be taking a look at him. I think this is kind of the area where he's going to go, like the late first, where the Orioles are taking. So definitely going to keep an eye on him. He throws hard, man. Madison, I think Adam Wainwright, I think is the comp I see a lot. I can kind of see that. Big, tall pitcher, throws hard, but I think he doesn't really overthrow. That's good. I mean, you see that with a lot of young pitchers as well. So I think definitely has a lot of potential. Cash Mayfield. Love saying the name. Cash Mayfield from Elk City in Oklahoma. Oklahoma, man, that's one of the hottest places on earth, man. Madison Baumgartner comparison for Cash Mayfield. I think he's really good. I really like Mayfield as a pitcher. Madison Bumgarner, I think he's a bit of a rock thrower. However, he's had tremendous success at the high school level. He's clearly, though, we talk about dominance, he's clearly overmatching high school players. He's definitely not at that level. He's definitely a guy who's overmatching them. They're strong left-handed. Like I said about Cam Nitty, I think he is, when you have a left hand and you have the size and you can throw as hard as he has, I think he's the hardest thrower of probably any of the left-handed pitchers, of the high school pitchers that I saw. I think, though, not as polished with his control and everything yet. I think he's got a little bit ways to go there. So I don't think, like him, I can see in the majors fairly soon. I think Mayfield needs a little bit more work, although the tools are absolutely there. Ryan Sloan, right-handed pitcher with York High School in Illinois. Former Oriole, I think I had him. Kevin Brown. Maybe he seems a little high right, for a lot of these guys, but you kind of get the idea. Ryan Sloan, I think, is really good. He doesn't overthrow. I think that's kind of the thing I do kind of like about him. He doesn't overthrow. He kind of throws it the way he needs to throw it. He's got good arm, good stuff. Throws really hard, but he doesn't overthrow. I like the fact that he's a pitcher. Like to see how he does, though. I would say not as dominant in high school. That's a little bit of a concern, but I think Ryan Sloan is the real deal. Definitely, he's in the first round for sure. Here's definitely a name I've heard linked to the Orioles. Wyatt Sanford for Independence High School in Texas. Good baseball high schools there in Texas. There, I tell you. And a Texas player was the comp, Corey Seager. I think, yeah, big shortstop. This is now definitely a guy power hitting shortstop. That's what I see when I see him. Um, Sometimes these guys go to college. I think he's ready for the minors right now. I definitely think he definitely has a lot of home run ability. Defensively, uh, it's mixed. I don't love him at shortstop. But again, I don't love. I think shortstop is just more deep. Maybe that's just me. I think guy. I mean, I think if it's an offensive guy, more I want to move him. Like in general, that's just me. But I like Wyatt Sanford. Offensively, he's definitely the real deal. He definitely can hit. Great bat speed again here. Number 8, Theo Gillen, Westlake High School in Texas. Second base, shortstop. Uh, Definitely here. I definitely all the tools are here for him. Little concerned with him. He's had some injuries. He had an injury last year. He kind of came back and he shook the injury. That's a little bit concerning at the high school level. Major League is such a grind with the guys. So Larissa Riza, I think, is kind of the comp for him. Defensively, I don't know. He doesn't throw the ball particularly well anymore. So I don't know about him at shortstop. I think second base might be it. I think he could probably play first base too, with his size. But he's playing second base, shortstop. But he's going to hit. He's going to hit. He's a terrific hitter. So I really like him. Slade Caldwell. This is a legs player from Valley High School in Arkansas. Definitely Johnny Damon was the guy. I don't think he's ever going to be a big time power hitter, but you could kind of put him in the category of an Enrique Benfield, a Dylan Beavers, a guy like that, runs the bases really well. I think that's definitely a guy that you're going to use there. So definitely that's somebody that's absolutely, I think, the lane for him. And lastly, Braylon Doherty, I think, is the last one on the list here. Big leg kick. It was cool to watch. Johnny Cueto, I think I had comp. I don't know if he's Johnny Cueto. Maybe that's overstating it. But like I've seen it. I've seen him like with nobody on base, very deliberate, going to the mound, and then he brings it. Kind of the same problem with Cueto with control. Like I think he's kind of reining in. I mean, he's definitely going to throw hard enough as well. His actually, but it's so deliberate as well. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who tries to coach that up, coach that out of him. His ability there, but I definitely think he's top 10 of the high school players. There you go. All right. So we'll go ahead and look at the draft this week. Again, we're going to stream this week and absolutely take a look at the MLB draft and see if we can get that taken care of as well. Orioles Report. So let's take a look at the Orioles. What happened to us this week? There you go. Orioles Report as well. So taking a look, didn't look like we got much offense tonight here. 3-0. Cubs over us tonight here. So it doesn't look like we got much offense tonight. Team probably a little tired, I think, in my opinion, with the All-Star break coming up. I think that's kind of the case with a lot of teams this time of year. So Orioles win 2 out of 3 games against Oakland as well. And it looks like they've lost the first 2. We're still here. Yeah, they lost the first 2 against the Chicago Cubs. So they've lost the first 2. They do have another shot at it tomorrow as well. So we're definitely going to check that out. Last time for the Orioles ever playing in Oakland. So the A's, as we know, are going to be moving to Sacramento. Absolutely disgrace what Major League Baseball has done to them. That was just terrible. I think what's happened to Sacramento, to the Oakland fan. I mean, the city's got to be culpable in it, but I mean, those crowds were just There was bigger crowds at the College World Series. There'd be bigger crowds at the Little League World Series. Seriously, I mean, if they had 5,000, 6,000, I'd been amazed. So yeah, it's unfortunate what's going on. Lost the first two games with the Cubs. Here, bats have went quiet. Bats have went quiet. Definitely out of rhythm a little bit here. I think they're ready for the break more than anything here. Who's hot right now? Craig Kimbrell, I think, has been really good. Some people even had him as an all-star stuff. I didn't think he'd make it. I think there's definitely a case to be made for him, certainly over Clay Holmes, who did make it. But I didn't think he'd make it. I thought kind of the narrative with him, it wasn't blow away enough. Jacob Webb has been really good lately, and shout out to Jordan Westberg. Yeah, I think Westberg is really good all year long. Some people have been saying that he's had better season than Adley. Debatable. I don't know. I think debatable whether that's true or not, but I think that's a fair enough comparison. That tells you how good Jordan Westbrook, and I think he's definitely been the biggest surprise. Who's hot? Ryan Mountcastle. Fans getting a little annoyed with Mountcastle. I think the power. I think he's kind of viewed as a power hitter. I think last year, and I kind of said this a couple times with Mountie, his injury last year, he was out and he came back. He became much more of a selective hitter. So his average, I think, has went up as because of it. He was hitting like 230, 240, but he hit more home runs because he's swinging at more bad pitches. His averages went up, power numbers has went down. I think moving the fences back has hurt him more than anything else. That's where he hit a lot of those home runs in that short in that short left field area as well. So his power numbers have definitely went down. And he's kind of struggled a little bit lately, kind of gotten into some bad habits. So, but I'm not too worried about Mountie. Jorge Mateo, he's up and down. I got no problem with Mateo. I think he's probably playing more than they thought he would this year. But yeah, he's not really an everyday player. I think they've had him as an everyday player, and then you're mad that he's not doing as well as they'd hope. That's not what he is. He's not a for real everyday player. And Cole Irvin struggled lately. Hasn't won a start in a while, whatever. And that kind of leads into the next part. They're kicking him, and it's already happened, to the bullpen. Brandon Hyde told reporters. I think he's going to be back in the rotation soon. I don't know how longer they go with Cade Povich. He got creamed again. I think they're going to give him, I think, one more start. But I think this is the safest move to make. Putting him in the bullpen and then having to put him back in the rotation, they're probably less worried about that. Povich, they want to see get starts and then or just send him back to the minors. There's no reason to have Povich there if you're not going to, there's no reason to have Povich there. You're going to send him back to Norfolk. I don't think they want to put Povich in the bullpen. I think that's essentially what happened. The Orioles will have 3 draft picks, 2024 draft with picks 22 and 34. 2024 MLB draft will take place over 3 days. First rounds starting on July 14th at 5 p.m. Definitely, once again, we're going to stream Sunday, talk about the draft as well. 22, I think some of the names we just talked about. Theo Gallen, definitely take an eye on that as well. I've seen that in mock drills. I didn't do my whole mock draft for baseball, but that's about that high school list. Definitely see it as well. Christian Moore is a name, the Orioles. I definitely do think it'll be an offensive player. I don't think it'll be a pitcher. I don't think there's a lot of college pitchers there. I don't think they want to do that in the first round. So I definitely do think it'll be an offensive player that they're looking at early. That's just an early prediction on that. All-Stars were selected. Adley and Gunnar are going to start the game. Shout out to them for getting the most votes at the position. Jordan Westberg, after not originally making, he's going to be filling as an all-star, and Corbin Burns is going to be there. Burns, I think, would have been murder if you didn't have Burns. That would have made absolutely no sense. Burns, I think you could argue he's the best pitcher in the entire in all of baseball. So that would have no surprise. Adley was voted in. Gunnar was voted in. Their stars rising. These guys are not just Oriole players. These guys are stars on all of baseball, and I think you saw it. The highest vote getting like Adley, I think, is probably known now as the best catcher in all of baseball. Gunnar, I think it's pretty close at the shortstop position with the year Bobby Witt's having, Corey Seager with the Great World Series, but Gunnar is definitely in the MVP race for sure. I definitely think that Gunnar. I think he's definitely. As a matter of fact, let's even do it here. Gunnar is definitely in the MVP conversation. Jordan Westberg, I think, has been outstanding. I like him better at second. That's just me, but he can definitely play third. He's so fundamentally sound. Get the glove on the ground. So many guys, professionals even, he's like this. He stands the ball. One thing they teach you in Little League, get the glove on the ground. He does it all the time. That's why the balls don't go under or around him. He's able to stop it, fundamentally sound, get the ball there. So shout out to all those guys getting into the All-Star game. Ken Rosenthal wrote this. For Garrett Crochet, the White Sox will want prospects such as Kobe Mayo and Karen Norby, not veterans in arbitration, writes the great Ken Rosenthal. Ken Rosenthal was a former Sun reporter. It's amazing how many former Sun reporters have went on to being national baseball guys. Like Ken Rosenthal, Tim Kirchin, Buster Olney. Those are all guys that worked at the Sun like for years. I think they all kind of replaced each other as baseball, right? I think Peter Smuck was the only one that stayed like for years and years. But shout out to them as well. What we're talking about is Garrett Crochet. We're going to talk a little bit about that on Sunday. I think the White Sox, I think, are the team that's going to sell. There's no reason for them to keep anybody. Okay, so, and Crochet, will the Orioles pay the cost for a guy like this? All right, I think it's worth it. I think for sure that's worth it. When you talk about Garrett Crochet and Tyler Anderson, not a lot of money you have to spend. Definitely a guy that's worth it. I do think the Orioles have to actually, and I think you have the prospects. I think Kobe Mayo is going to be off limits. I think Jackson Holiday is going to be off limits. I don't think there anything else is. I think Sammy Basayo, Carlton Cowser, he's for me saying Heston Kjerstad, you got a lot of good prospects, and you're going to have another draft here where you get another shot at. So I absolutely think they can absolutely get that squared away. Yankees this week, All-Star break. So tomorrow, after the Cubs, they're going to play the Yankees. Then they're going to have an All-Star break. So I don't think they're back in business until Friday after this. So definitely keep that in mind. So Yankees, definitely. And then we're going to have the break. Player of the week, I was remiss, didn't mention Gunnar Grayson Rodriguez. Last week, player of the week. This week, Gunnar. Gunner's fantastic, man. Gunnar is definitely in the MVP conversation. I think had it not been for Aaron Judge, I think he's right there as the league MVP. He's been